mid matchup. I think the big thing is here making sure they don't match up in lane. I think if you're T1, you see this bat and you're like, yeah, we're definitely running it off lane. Typically, the one lane bat rider will not go is safe lane unless they like decide to aggro their carry, which maybe they try and do just to get this bat rider versus Necro matchup. But I think for T1, as long as the Necro is not laying against bat, you can still get value out of the pick. We saw, last game wasn't a great Necro game.
Yeah, but T1 historically this DPC season they just keep putting it off lane for Cuckoo.
Yeah.
So the bat's not going carry, so it just should be fine. I think the Pango's most likely going to go mid.
I guess they're picking the bat for the Pango mid, which I don't know if you know how that lane goes.
I would assume it's fine because you can always just swash away. And
yeah.
Probably a little bit rougher in later levels because when you swash away, you then just get flame breaked back towards him, and then you can't roll up in time for him to lasso you. So that's a little bad, but I think it's probably fine in lane.
What tempos are T1 looking to go here with their lineup?
Right now, they're kind of more the slower pace. This is reminiscent of the first game where they're maybe just going to have to give up some ground early on. Like, they've got this ability to defend towers. Like, you've got Coddle, Blast, you've got Pango. There's a lot of good wave clear. You've got Living Armor to heal up towers, but Execration are going to be running around, looking to play fast, run and gun, go for kills. That's what Batrider wants to dive some towers. Kunkka's probably their safe lane carry here. Could also be an offlaner, I guess. That's why Drow gets banned, but Kunkka's just this other hero that wants to fight and get active early. Isn't usually like this greedy sit back and farm hero. So I think T1 are just drafting, almost preparing for that pressure and picking these heroes that are pretty durable and can maybe just keep their towers alive for a bit longer.
Necro might be one of the only offlaners that's just like can actually win lane against Kunkka carry. I think I remember last patch he was an absolute scourge of the lane.
Yeah.
We barely saw any heroes that can kind of stand against him. Oh, that should be good. I think their lane is pretty strong there on T1.
Radiant team pick.
Ooh.
And they're really susceptible to this Batrider early game.
Yeah.
I'm very scared. He has potential to pop off very hard, and Bob's Batrider is fearsome. Like, he's very good.
What's a key component missing for Execration's lineup that they could pick up here?
10 seconds remaining.
Depends how all in they want to go. Like, I think you have two options. One, pick a carry that can match up against TB and scale. Like that's like, I don't know, Phantom Lance, but Phantom Lance is bad against everything else. But I basically pick some scale and carry. Or option B is go all in on this like early to mid game snowball and hope like make the Batrider more your win condition where he pops off, runs them over, pick a hero that takes objectives, take Roche early, and then just look to snowball the game. So I could see Execration taking either.
The heroes I want for the early kind of thing are gone. Like I was like, oh yeah, is TA in the round? Is Razor around? Yeah, they're both gone. Tiny's gone.
Are they going to be forced into picking something that's going to go later because of these bans then?
Not particularly. I mean, there's other ideas.
The one other option is you do Venge Core, I guess, and have Venge Kunkka as your 2 cores.
Don't like that. Oh, I don't like that.
No.
I can tell by the reaction.
I don't think that Venge is good enough against TB. I mean, you could just run some offlane like Darkseer, maybe. But I don't. Yeah, maybe because Darkseer could play pretty well with Batrider. Like the Ion Shell, along with all of his magic damage, should be like enough to kill T1's heroes like really easily.
AoE magic damage is good against Necro TB. Like magic damage definitely feels great if you want to get like a Leshrac Zeus type hero again. But at that point your scaling damage for late game is going to be a little bit limited. But that is one way to go all in.
Yeah, that's true. I can see the Leshrac. I don't know if man, I'm just thinking about the Darkseer. I don't think Tino plays it. I wish he did. If he'd pick it here, I'd be so excited. I don't. But I guess they are open, and that's probably what's taking their pick so long, as they get to choose like, do we want an offlane, do we want to carry? What's our best option?
Trying to weigh up all the matchups, and it's gonna be Clinks.
The only team that play that hero is like Virtus Pro. So and I haven't seen anyone else have any success with it.
I'm going to ask Mike and John if they think the Clinks is going to be bringing success, and if you guys even saw this pick coming.
Didn't see it coming, but we've seen it succeed before with other teams. Stuff like Dreammaker, I think, Mike, if you remembered him, with Chidori playing that Clinks 1. There is a timing to hit. It can come online a lot faster than TB. And I can see the idea Execration has here. I mean, Bob on his Batrider looks pretty good. They'd have to play a lot faster. I think that's what we have to see. Tino and the Kunkka is a bit of a question mark for me. He used to play it in safe lane. Off lane's a bit of a different pace. So I like the draft of Execration a lot more. I still feel like T1 can just stall for Gabby's win condition.
Yeah, I'm of the same kind of sentiment. I think the draft from Execration's a hell of a lot better. Still a question mark around whether Clinks is actually good, but I don't know. I think they could actually force us to a game 3, to be honest. I don't really like T1's draft at all. I think it's way too slow.
Okay, there is a little bit of faith for Execration. Do you think they are going to be able to execute it here on the couch?
Mike didn't call Clinks trash. That's a good sign, I
He
think.
was so angry, I thought he was
Yeah,
gonna call it trash.
he called it a question mark.
Question
So
mark.
it could be trash, but
It's trash question mark instead
yeah.
of trash exclamation
I
mark.
see.
What's
Well,
the difference?
my opinion is it's Bob's Batrider versus the world, and if he does not beat the world is gonna beat him.
Let's see if this Batrider can carry them into a game number 3, but we are heading into game number 2 for now between Execration and T1.
Well, thank you very much. Now, we do go into a game number 2 between Execration and T1. John, prediction, please. Bob the Builder today or Bob the Wrecker, this game number 2?
He's got the Batrider. I expect this to be a bit more of a wrecker up against a Pangolier. The lane can kind of go back and forth, but I think that still feels pretty good for a Batrider. I mean, Swash is going to be annoying, Shield Crash is going to be annoying, but it's still a melee hero that you're dealing with as a Batrider, so it's much more manageable for Bob. And we saw him in game 1 do a pretty good job, as the panel pointed out. He was getting that momentum. He got the tier 1 mid in like 6 minutes, and we saw that emphasis again from Execration from the interviews to secure that mid. So I think that's the game plan here. Give Bob some really strong comfort picks, snowball off of it. Even Tino on the Kunkka, like I had a bit of a question mark with that, but he did play it a lot in safe lane before. I trying to recall in the previous iteration of Execration before Tino went to Boom, I don't recall him playing the off-lane Kunkka too much. So that's the one question mark, but it's still a hero he's familiar with. I think that does give Execration that run and gun they'll need. The issue for T1, as you pointed out, again, slower pace. Gabby has to farm for a very long time, and it's a bit passive. Like, you do have some play potential with Treant acting as your initiation, and maybe the Pangolier once Blink Yules is up, if you do go that route, instead of the Diffusal. But that is a lot more items to wait for compared to Exa.
30 seconds to battle.
Oh, it could be a big team fight to break out already as Carl. He's spotted, but level 1 timings. They don't have the lockdown right now. Execration still holding on to those level 1 spells. Not really leveling anything up quite yet. In fact, they're going to be the ones to back off that high ground. It's not really maybe willing to go for that early fight. Bob could be in a bit of danger himself, but no, he's got Vincenzo right behind him. He's going to be just fine. Instead, towards the top side, Tino now being chased down, but he'll go for the torrent. Still, they do manage to pick up the Bayana rune as Tino and Shanks will have to run. Whitemon, that angry tree. Gonna chase him down for a little bit longer, but does eventually back off. I wonder how this lane goes. I mean, top lane, you've got the Kunkka, you've got the Venge. It does seem like quite a strong lane matchup here against the TB and the Treant Protector. John, do you disagree? Do you think it goes another way?
That's a pretty good lane to have. They can always chop the trees, as you're already seeing them. Eat through a couple of trees to prevent Whitemon having some good angles. There's a lot of minus armor that you could play with here. Tidebringer plus Wave of Terror can do a lot of work. Although TB is pretty high armor to start off with, so probably not the target you'd want. Whitemon would be a lot easier with 1 armor. So you get a quick pause and unpause. But you already see Whitemon still has a few trees to play with, can run down Tino. Level 1 Torrent is not ideal, as it does take away your potential to at least trade hits a little bit more and clear out the creep wave. So you are missing out on a bit for Tino trying to go for that rune a while ago, and that is something to give T1 a little bit more room to breed in this lane.
It's actually quite a disgusting combo, right? Like with the Nature's Grasp and the Reflection, it's so much damage that you pump out onto this duo in the offlane of Execration. Still, the Weeko again, actually. Reflection up, Nature's Grasp is there. They're going to try and fight back now with the Magic Missile and the Torrent, which does actually land. Looks like Whitemon will be forced to back off, but he's still just doing a great job of not allowing them near the creep wave to harass out Gabby. So while we do have a chance, we should have a look at the other lanes as well. This mid lane, never mind, bot lane we'll have a look at. Cuckoo and Zephyr against Palos and Vincenzo. How do you feel about this one, John? I mean, we both have a bit of a question mark over the Clinks. Do you feel like Cuckoo and Zephyr should be as dominant as they were? In fact, hold that thought, because top lane there's more action breaking out. They won't secure a kill, but Shanks and Tino certainly cannot keep this off lane going. Back to the question though, John, this bot lane. Who do you think has the advantage?
Feels a lot more passive for both sides almost. Like Cuckoo can't really gap close onto Clinks and try to immediately burst him down with double Death Pulse with Chakra. It's going to be harder to hold him down as well, but the Clinks is squishy, and he is vulnerable to that. Vincenzo is doing a good job just putting his body forward. It does end up being more of a farming lane, and in that sense, you favor the Necrophos lane a little bit more because it's self-sustaining. Clinks, when he does trade hits, it's not going to feel good. And he is just going to be drained of HP, going to force a couple of salves, maybe some more regen out from Vincenzo, whereas that's not a concern for T1. So you can just keep farming to your heart's content without having to spend on regen, and that's a net benefit for T1 if Palos and his support's forced to ferry a lot of stuff to sustain.
Yeah, and of course that final lane, John. Bob in the mid lane against Carl on the Pango. I'm kind of surprised to see that Carl's actually leading in CS, and I thought Bob would be a lot more dominant here on the Batrider, but it doesn't seem like he's been able to get the impact he's wanted so far. I mean, mind you, he is holding Carl back from the creep wave, but it seems like Carl with the swashbuckle is more than happy to move in, and hell, even with the shield crash. But bot lane, Cuckoo, oh, one more hit would do it. No, he's fine. Vincenzo can't close the gap. They'll salve up the Necrophos, and he'll survive another day.
Pretty hard here to burst down, but you have to respect the output of Palos. He does go for 2 levels in Searing Arrows, holding on to his third skill point, whether or not he wants the Burning Barrage or the Skeleton Walk to escape. But again, you can see if Cuckoo's healthy enough, runs up to Palos, uses the Death Pulse, it's not a pretty time. That's a second salve onto Palos, that's more gold taken away from Vincenzo. And again, just that constant regen fight wins out the economic war for T1, because Zephyr's not investing as much to keep themselves alive here.
Top lane again, Tino. Chase down here with just so much slow being applied. Does manage to get away, but he's on 8 CS right now on this Kunkka. Still level 2, by the way, John. And Whitemon has out-XP'd him now on that Kunkka. That's a real concerning sign.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. And Kunkka from the offlane, you know, it's still Kunkka, it still needs items up. Level 6 is a pretty good spike, but you want to be able to build up. I'm guessing on the offlane you'd want a fast BKB this game. Not looking to line up for Tino. And they're not even getting some aggression out onto mid. Shank smoked up, just secures the water rune for Bob, doesn't really look for the kill op. So that's a lot of time where Tino's just vulnerable at level 2 here up against 2 level 4 and level 3 heroes.
It's just clinical right now as bot lane. There is a bit of a fight breaking up, and so is top lane. Just both side lanes getting very aggressive as well, everyone does manage to get away without dying. Still feel very bad for Tino in this offlane Kunkka. He's just not been able to catch a break. There's now mid lane. Bob, he'll go for a bit of a chase onto Carl. Might have enough damage as well with the Firefly, and he does secure first blood. Bob was the one in danger initially, but Carl, going a bit too deep, does end up paying for it with his life.
Yeah, just a bit too deep. Not respecting that output of the Batrider there. They are starting to apply a lot more pressure in the side lanes though. So despite losing Carl on mid, I think T1's still doing a great job of holding the side lanes. Look at Palos. He's just not having a great lane at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's Clinks, John. I mean, question mark, but still just Clinks. You know? Question might be answered at the end of this game, at least. Palos, he is still fighting CS, though. I mean, I think that's the big difference, right? Like, you saw the anti-mage last game. Couldn't even get close to a creep wave without just copying so much damage. And Palos, at least, is securing some CS here in this bot lane. So I can't say it's quite as bad as, say, game 1.
Yeah, definitely not as bad. The build-up for Clinks is the weird one, though. Although they do catch Zephyr out.
Oh, do they? They do. Cuckoo, gonna be unable to trade as Palos will be very happy with that kill and does even get a free salve out from his Bane. Happy days here for the Clinks as he's looking down Cuckoo now. You might be able to set up onto this Necrophos. Brain Sap back off cooldown. Palos will move in, and Cuckoo. Well, he had the Ghost Shroud, but it wouldn't have helped anyway. He just doesn't bother popping it, and suddenly Palos gets a double kill on this Pos 1 Clinks.
That's big. You really want that Clinks to hit that early timing onto the Maelstrom. Usually we see a Gleipnir build up again from Chidori. Top though, Bot going aggressive.
Yeah. Whitemon currently on fire. Freeze, not the biggest fan of fire, though Carl's gonna move in now. Rolling Thunder is on cooldown, but they still get a great trade. They found the Kunkka, and in fact the chase is on for Bob now. You've still got the haste rune going here for Carl, so he'll move in, try and focus down this kill. The Shanks is going to intervene and not allow him to keep going, so instead he'll take Shanks' life perhaps as the sticky napalm, slowing him down along with the flame break. Carl, he goes too far and Bob punishes him again.
It's a lot once you get 7 sticky napalm stacks up, and Bob, it's starting to look like might be Bob the Wrecker mode this game around, Mike. Doing a good job of finding kills. Not quite up there in terms of CS, but he is #1 in net worth. Kills are starting to rack up. Going for the Boots of Travels first. So it's going to be really active on the map. It's going to be really easy for him to run down. And you don't have the best saves from T1 at all for the lasso. You have no real source of dispels. So the lasso is always going to be a constant issue down bot. Bob showing up.
And he is. Bob in keeping aggressive as possible as Cuckoo will be targeted on the Necrophos. Ghost Shroud is popped, but that is not going to save you. Not from the Batrider. Bob looking very confident this game, 4-0-0 already. It's hard to slow this man down when he has a start like this, John, especially on this hero.
And he's buying the space needed for the rest of the Execration heroes to build up. You're still not quite getting the build-up you'd want on your Kunkka. Tino is still kind of lagging behind. Does have the Urn going for a Spirit Vessel build-up, so nothing like a fast BKB, but just more sustain and more ways of fighting back. I am keen to see what Paulus goes for, though. Like, after Maelstrom, again, the last time we see flanks from Dreammaker with Chidori was mainly Gleipnir. And that's like the big timing, right? You just Gleipnir down a group of heroes, Burning Barrage through, your damage skyrockets, and that's when it really starts to feel ridiculous. But that is still a lot of farm Paulus needs, and he's still kind of keep a little bit behind, not too far, but it's not the most flash farmy hero.
Oh, poor old Shanks. Just getting kind of pincered in. Look at this, John. All the stacks to be taken here by T1. Execration can't allow this to happen for free, but so much gold to go back the way of the Dire if they get away with this, and nobody's coming. They are not going to contest. Instead, they're going down bot lane to try and kill Cuckoo, but I think it's well worth it for T1. And they'll just keep fighting over these Ancients. Bob does eventually get Cuckoo down, but I still think T1's more than happy with this.
Yep. That's farm that's supposed to go to Chidori for him to play with a Burning Barrage. And now you bleed out all the way to Carl and to Gabby. So you managed to give that Terrorblade a bit of a catch-up after that slightly slower lane. Gabby's still doing a great job of just farming up uncontested. They haven't been able to rotate top. And I think that change of focus for Execration is really the big difference in comparison to Game 1. They are still getting aggression out for Bob, but they're not playing the top lane as much. They haven't also managed to get a push. Their lineup isn't taking objectives. So their early aggression is finding kills. It's not really adding much more to your map, though, right? Like, you're not taking map control off these kills. You're not slowing the opposite pause 1. You're slowing the off lane and the mid. And sure, Carl is having a really slow start in the Pango. Diffusal is taking a little bit longer. But you have to worry about Gabby. Like, this Terrorblade is ramping up a lot faster than you'd want. Manta style coming out, and once that's up, even if you hit that Gleipnir timing for pilots, catching out the TV becomes a really hard prospect. And I think they've got to get a little bit more here in Exit.
Oh, to be able to take that double damage run away, but mid lane, Bob. Lasso is out. Cuckoo once again being the target. They really hate this Necrophos. It's Vincenzo with the Fiend's Grip stopping the Pangolin mid-track. This Carl cannot help out. Bob able to set up another kill onto Cuckoo. On T1, they just don't have the answers at the moment to fight back.
Yeah. Just lacking output, lacking durability on Cuckoo. Still stuck at level 6 at 10 minutes in. Bit of slow progress from the offlane considering all the pressure. And with that pressure, Execration can finally start looking at their first tower. It is a slow process. You are up against a Treant, you are up against a Keeper for Light that can clear out the wave. So it's a very tall order, but they do want some objectives done here.
Well, they can't even find Vincenzo here, John. Zephyr, he'll cop the stun. Carl, still looking for a way to abuse his swashbuckle with the double damage, but now Bob looking to turn back in onto Whitemon. Overgrowth is going to be there though, Carl. Looking for that Batrider, but the shield crash swashbuckle is not enough. Once again, Execration come out on top of this team fight. And they'll be right back to farming. 9-2 though, slight net worth lead the Radiant way.
Yeah, I think that's the concerning sign. Like, again, if you're not getting objectives and you have a kill lead but not a huge net worth advantage, that means the enemy is still keeping up. That means T1's still farming, Gabby's definitely still farming, Carl might be taking a hit, but he's matching Paulus and Bob and still above Tino. Cuckoo is at the bottom, and that is worrying for Necrophos. But as long as you keep stalling out these towers, keep stalling out the push, T1 can still keep trading this way and still hope that the Terrorblade grows big, because again, he's been uncontested. We're seeing Execration commit up top. Treant alone isn't enough to really keep these towers alive, but it's still a slow process in clearing out the towers. And that's just more time for T1 to find farm for Gabby, to keep that build up, to hit that defusal timing on the Pangolier, flying out now for Carl. Next move here, Mike, is the blink for Carl, and at that point T1's got a little bit more play, a little bit more jump potential to clear out these fights for themselves.
Yeah. Well, there goes that tier 1 top. It's been a late objective, but they get it, Execration. I do agree with your points as well, by the way, John. I mean, it's like you said, you can get all the kills you want, but Dota's an objective-based game, and none of it may matter in the end. There might be a fight to break out on the top side of this map. T1 Zephyr. Carl gonna show up, but they're not gonna force anything. It's like it is all about just slowing down the game, and I guess we knew this was gonna happen anyway with this kind of draft. When your support duo is literally keeper of the line and treant, so you are just looking to hold towers as long as possible. And I suppose as long as Gabby's hitting creeps, you're more than happy. Though props to the Clinks as well, John. I mean, Palos, considering all those stacks were taken away from the Clinks, he is still having a great old time.
I mean, once you hit that Maelstrom timing, it does become a lot faster to clear out. They catch Gabby.
Oh, that's a great kill. They do end up picking off Gabby. Vincenzo and Bob making it work as Carl, he might be able to punish. Or maybe not. Vincenzo out with a TP. And once again, this Bat Rider proving to be a massive issue.
They're just so aggressive, and Execration's just got the play. You know, they've got ways to constantly run at you. They've got ways to punish you if you are farming passively. T1 will go for a smoke play now. Still no blink up in Carl, but if they do find the angle with Inhibit, you might be able to at least find a simple pick-off for themselves.
Well, they found Shanks. It's not the greatest kill in the world, but it's certainly something. Something that they need. I'll take it. I wonder, like, who do you think wins in the matchup? Like, TB versus Clink's late game? Who actually wins that one out, John?
You know, we've seen that a couple of times, again, from mainly Chidori. And it feels like it's rather even. It actually feels like it gets pretty even by 35 minutes. Clink's itemization can rip through TB, especially with the Gleipnir and Burning Barrage. Bounces from the Maelstrom's good. You have the Orchid buildup, which amps up your right click now as well into Bloodthorn. That could be another route Palos goes for as well. I think the Clinks does keep up. He's just tied into Death Pact the same way Terrorblade's tied into Metamorphosis. So it's a little bit of a back and forth in that timing. I do feel like if you go ultra late game, the Terrorblade feels a lot better. His stat game's a lot better than the Clinks. His output's always good, and it scales a lot better. So late game, Terrorblade favored. Mid game, pretty even, depending on the itemization here.
Well, now Zephyr going to drop here to Bob once again, as they will try to move on to the Bane and get some sort of trade going for themselves. But Vincenzo will drop. As Carl, looking for a bit more now, does move in onto Shanks, but not going to bother trying to go for the Rolling Thunder or anything like that. Again, they are just playing a very defensive game here, T1. Execration, still loving the aggression here from Bob. See if they can keep it going, but Bob is very close to a Blink Dagger now, and it's only going to allow him to go even further.
And that's a big concern. T1, again, they don't have any way of stopping that lasso. Like, they literally don't, unless they get a Lotus Orb in someone, and no one's really building that up as a rush. So they're always going to be susceptible to that jump in, and Execration's just going to be looking to play with that. They're also rushing the BKB now on Tino. A lot more presence coming out from Makonka. It's very hard to fight into the boat, and they are hunting here.
They are. Rolling Thunder is out. Carl gonna move in. Bob, he's a massive pick-off. You don't want to lose this guy right now. Nightmare, it's not gonna be enough. That's a big one. Carl will be happy with that, but now the turnaround. Tino will throw the boat in. Palos going for the Burning Barrage, but a big overgrowth out. It's got 4 heroes, but where's the follow-up? It's actually Cuckoo that drops. In fact, Carl, he even went down to Tino. It's a great team fight for Execration if they can make their way out, but they are falling slowly but surely as the blinding light comes through. They all just melt. It was a great start, John, but not such a great finish.
No, it just disrupted from T1. Really good position from Whiteblunt to break off the damage there for a bit. And Gabby just rolls up. He has the fresh Manta up. He's got some stats. He can avoid some of the control coming through from Execration, and he does a lot of damage. Metamorphosis just feels consistently higher compared to the Clink's output, and you do have the stats to back that up. So Gabby just kind of steamrolls through, and that's big for T1. Sure, they still lose 2 cores, but the kills they got Gabby was around to gain from it. So he's just kind of widening that slight lead he has and throwing the momentum of Execration back just a little bit more. 13-7, less than 1k lead on T1 side now. Execration still have a lot of power behind them. They were going for a bit of a split-up fight, though. You know, that mid-engagement happened while there was a bit of a smoke play onto the top jungle, splitting up the position of Tino and Shanks. I think if you had that early response onto mid a lot faster, you might have been able to save Bob, you might have been able to use the lasso, use the blink, and win out in a bigger way for Execration. Giving those kinds of small wins to T1 gives a lot more towards their way. They're such an experienced team that any small advantage they get, they blow it wide open.
Absolutely. Still a very close game here, just less than 1k net worth lead here for T1. Palos, he's going to start working on towards that Eye of Skadi, and, well, the exact same thing's being built up on Gabby. The top lane, pings are coming out. They're looking to try and move in. Bob, gonna show off the map for now, but oh, has he made it obvious he's there? White One's trying to bait him in, but the scan out is gonna make it very clear that he does have help behind him. So instead, they'll go after Shanks. That'll ensure Bob does get out intact. And instead, it's into the mid lane, but they're trying to force down the T1 mid tower. But you see how quick the rotations are from T1. They are not gonna have it. That T1 will stand.
As you mentioned, Mike, it's the support duo. You don't want to give away towers. You've got a Treant. You want to keep stalling that. And for Execration, that mid-tier one's such a painful point for them. They're not able to fully invade the top jungle. There's still some good TP points from T1. They're not really cleared out to do Roshan as well. Although their lineup's not exactly the quickest, it is still an objective they'd like to take. They do have a nice Invis rune on Vincenzo, spotting out Gabby's farming area, but he doesn't have the backup this time around to try and jump that TB. So Gabby's still free to farm. I am a bit surprised with Palos going for the Skadi build-up, right? Like, it does allow him to scale, take away a lot of the healing coming through from the Necrophos with the Death Pulse out, but it does feel like you miss out on a bit of that early time you could get with the early aggression a Gleipnir might give you or an Orchid could give you. The stats are nice, but it feels like now you're tempting yourself to go late game with the Clinks, you know, going for the Skadi, going for these bigger item buildups. You're allowing the Terrorblade to match your pace in terms of itemization, and Gabby's still maintaining a slight lead. So he's always going to match the item pickups of the Clinks. And it just feels like Gabby, when he pops Metamorphosis, is still a bigger hero than the Clinks is at the moment.
Absolutely. Palos, he's got those shards up now, and the Burning Army, the 2 skeletons you get, kind of annoying to deal with, but not too big of a deal. Big smoke out for Execration, three-man smoke. And Tino will move with both supports to see if he can find anyone here. And nobody really hanging around that dire jungle, though. T1 will basically reveal their position around the mid lane, but Bob, he's going to be very cautious. Reaper Scythe is available on Cuckoo. Carl just needs to initiate, but he doesn't have the blink off cooldown, so he can't move in with the Rolling Thunder. So Bob is going to be just fine to make his own way out. Execration, they'll just hold their ground around the Roshan pit for now. Seems like they're just waiting for the right opportunity to try and force a fight, but it just hasn't shown itself yet. Shanks. Carl will move in. They've got the purge up. Shanks. Well, he's not going to be able to swap himself out. He will just cop the Reaper's Scythe. That'll be enough for T1.
It's not the biggest kill. It is only the second Reaper Scythe kill for Cuckoo, so at this point you just want to commit to get a couple of stacks going to get a little bit more regen in the middle of these fights. The stall game is working out to both sides' favor, and both cores are farming. Palos is starting to trail behind by a bigger way, though. 2k behind now in comparison to Gabby. The Terrorblade only 400 gold away from full Skadi up. A major spike for the TBs we tend to see. And for Execration, it feels like maybe the same thing we saw from Game 1, Mike, where they get this really strong start. They find a lot of good kills, they get some good momentum, they don't have a massive net worth lead, and they don't find the objectives fast enough. Like, they stall out, they hit a wall in terms of taking stuff off the map, and that just gives T1 room to recover and build up. And now T1 going for smoke, Execration as well. Smoke and smoke.
Yeah, here we go, smoke on smoke situation. Bob gonna move in already with the lasso target onto Cuckoo. It's a great one to get started as Cuckoo's already dropping. Beach Grip even committed. They'll take him down. A great start for Execration, but now Carl, he's onto the Bat Rider. Bob gonna drop immediately as a swap. It's not gonna be good enough. Shanks trying his best. Now the overgrowth down onto the Bane, which will mean a third target to go down. And I'll tell you what, John, I didn't really see what Palos did in that team fight. It felt like nothing really happened for him.
No, he wasn't really able to leverage any damage. And I think that one big thing Execration did is they used Lasso and Grip. They used both their big spells to try to hold down one hero. You have to use only one, save the other bit of kit to break up T1's counter initiation. And they didn't manage to. So it gives T1 another angle to come in. They just roll up with Carl. They have Gabby pop Meta, do damage into Roshan as well. Aegis goes Gabby's way, and they might chase a few here.
They may, Tino. He's going to try and back out, but he is completely surrounded, and he knows the Reaper Sight's off cooldown. There'll be another one for T1, and suddenly it's a 6k net worth advantage with an Aegis advantage on Gabby. And this is where the game starts to not become so close as T1. They've hit their timings now, and it seems like they're more than happy to keep fighting every time meta's up.
Yeah, they're just more than willing to start going. They're online with Gabby. They know the Clinks is still trying to build up onto the Scotty. It feels like the Clinks need more than that. I'd say a BKB would be very useful for Pilots to stand and fight. After that Scotty, he can try to keep using the Death Pack. They do manage to kill off Bob as well. And that momentum coming through from the Bat Rider is starting to fade here, right? Like, he's been stuck at Blink Travels for a while trying to go onto the BKB, but there's not much room when Paulus is eating everything up.
Yeah, nice dust out, Carl. Spidey senses were tingling. Be able to back off anyway. Again, it feels like Palos, he can't really do much right now. Like, he hits creeps, but that's about all I've been seeing here in these team fights. You're not really building up to anything like a Gleipnir either, which was the previous build-up for Clinks, right? Like, you'd root them down, you'd go for the Burning Barrage. It's not really the same build-up, and we're now mid-lane. Whitemon gonna set up with a great overgrowth. And that should be 2 to go down as Vincenzo, he'll be the first, and Shanks will be the second. No problem for T1. Palos will show up, but all he can really do is watch his tier 2 tower go down. Gonna try it. But there's just no way to defend, I don't think.
No. And Execration, I mean, they've got pretty tricky angles here. They've got the BKB up in Tino. He's rushing the Ags. He's trying to, you know, just be a disruptive force in these team fights. Go for the Ag shred as well. He didn't have a fastest start, and I think a lot of that means that no follow-up for Bob again. And speaking of Bob,
look at the damage. Carl just in one swashbuckle taking out over half of Bob's HP. And that'll be Bob Khan. Reaper's Sight is there from Cuckoo. Tips are out for Bob. They're feeling themselves now. It's the tier 2 bottom tower under siege, and I'll be frank, John, I think Bob's done a splendid job this game. It's just at the point where you kind of expect the carry to be online, I'd say, and it just doesn't feel that way.
And you've got Scotty up in Palos. That could be something. Again, it just doesn't feel like enough, Mike. And it feels like if you had control with, say, a Gleipnir, you might have been able to look at that. Burning Barrage, it's just tickling Gabby. It's not enough.
Yeah. Dual Scepter up. You know, he's going to be just fine, but Gabby just wants the tier 3 tower anyway. Still BKB available with the Aegis here on the TB. But plenty of ways to survive through the onslaught that is Execration when they do make their move. Swap out. Fiend's Group immediately onto Cuckoo. It's a great start to the team fight. Shanks may drop. In fact, never mind. Lasso is there onto Gabby. That'll be the first line. Keep in mind, he has no Metamorphosis, but he does still have that BKB up to the boat. Not really going to do much. And Gabby, he's going to go for the racks and just TP out. He won't quite get it, though. The illusions do go down, but here comes Carl now. Onto Shanks they go. That'll be one. Zephyr's still in massive trouble, so he's going to go down to the keeper. And so Execration, they do successfully defend high ground.
They hold on. They take the Aegis away as well and force T1 back. They find a couple of nice kills for themselves. They're opening up a little bit more time to build up. It is the BKB next for Palos, as we mentioned. He needs to just be able to stand and fight. I am actually curious, Mike. I've been doing some theory crafting in my mind. You see that level 15 talent in Palos? instead of 25% death pact health? What if you got creep abilities and you went for something like the disarm creep? You know, you're not going to get much HP because, yeah, well, it's not much HP on that creep. But if you had the Dominator, someone with the Dominator dominate it, eat it, get the disarm, that sounds pretty busted, right? That could be a new avenue for Clinks, maybe.
I think you're better off just getting the Dark Troll Summoner, John, and just summoning more skeletons.
Yeah, there
I
you
think
go.
that's the way
You
to
could
go.
do that too.
Just summon skeletons. Make your own
I know.
art.
Well, smoke out from T1 here, Mike.
There he is. Well, I'm going to move in. Shanks, he'll be targeted here on the Venge, and there's no way out. Reaper Scythe again. Cuckoo just going to take care of him. And it seems like you just go after that final outer tower here for T1, and then maybe you go high ground again, or maybe you just wait out the next Roshan.
I don't think you're in a rush here for T1. You understand you're in the lead. You know that your Terrorblade scaling into the late game is, maybe a lot better than the Clinks right now. It certainly seems that way. And you can just wait for Roche. There is still decent hold coming out from Execration. Good swaps, good lassos can make a difference. Although speaking of, Bob gets caught down. But, so never mind.
Never mind indeed, John. Quick rotations from T1 as Gabby will hand the tip over to Bob once again. Yeah, it's still no struggle here for T1. I mean, 13k ahead. The matchup suits them very well. Tino does get used up by Cuckoo, but it doesn't seem like the follow-up will be there for the Kunka. They've already got on the T2 top tower, though, so it really is at that stage now where you may as well just wait out the next Roshan. Just keep escalating that net worth lead, and well, again, while Palos is still not too far behind the TB, it just doesn't seem like he's able to stand there and actually hit people.
BKB is going to be pivotal for Palos to finally show some of that damage off, and we'll see if it's going to be enough. It feels like after BKB, you might actually just want to go for something like a Daedalus, get some big fat numbers up in your right click, really in melt, or maybe something like an Orchid, although with Lotus up on Zephyr, that's been there for a while, it doesn't feel like you're going to get max value. So we'll see what Palos will opt for next. Does have the BKB with a disassembly on the Dragonlance. So there is a window now where the Clinks can be a problem. And they will smoke up here on Execration. They won't drag Palos in though. They will move us 4.
Bob, maybe I'm going to sit up onto Whitemon. It may not be the target you really want to start on, especially considering Whitemon does have friends around, so instead they're going to try on Carl. Bean's Grip is stacked up on top of the lasso. Can they actually get the kill though? Overgrowth maybe buying some time as Carl. He's going to roll up. There's your Rolling Thunder. He should still drop, but no, he's out of there. Oh, he is well and truly out as Palos is still chasing him down, but he can't keep up. He'll pop the BKB eventually, but they are ignoring him completely. Gabby trying to find a target to hit, may have to settle for Tino. The BKB is popped. Tino still not going to make it out. Just too much right-click damage. And what a spit in the face of Execration is Carl. He still remains standing.
It's the same deal, Mike. Lasso and Grip used onto one hero, leaving no follow-up control for the rest of the fight, and T1 just collapses on top, knowing the big tools are gone. Palos did do some good damage this time. You are seeing some of the output plates start to shine through, but not enough to make that big impact. And they are set to just maybe drop some racks if they're not careful. No Lasso, no Grip for a little bit longer. It's an opening for T1, but they could just wait for Roche. 10 seconds away from seeing the respawn. They also know where Bob is. Carl?
Yeah, Bob, don't do it. Bob, we've seen this before, Bob. Just stay in that tree line for now, sir. It's not safe. Carl will eventually show himself, and that'll be the green light for Bob to make his way over and clear out that creep wave. There is a lot more heroes heading up towards Bob, but highly doubt they can catch him now as he can just TP away. He will do exactly that. Again, it does seem like it's all about the Roshan right now for T1. I don't think Execration can really afford to let this second Roshan go the way of the Dire, but they've got about a minute and a half to try and figure out how they're going to try and fight against it.
Palos?
Very far forward. Solarbind is there. They don't even need the Rolling Thunder yet. They will eventually pop it and chase down Palos. Shanks is already gone. Palos, he's trying to fight with the BKB up. That's not going to be enough either. He just has to run. The chase continues. The roll-up is there. Carl chucks a U-turn. They've got the clicks, and there's your Reaper sight. It's not quite enough, but eventually, with the shield crash, they'll get it done. Is even Tino. He needs the BKB TP away from Zephyr. Bomb's getting tipped. I don't know why Bomb's confident, John, but he is.
You know what's sad, Mike? They don't even find a mid-tier 1. Like, Palace commits for that. They don't find a tower. It's a pain point for Execration. Palace is going for the Daedalus, as we mentioned. It's so much farm. And it doesn't feel like T1's giving them room to find that space. In fact, they're not even waiting for Roche, just onto high ground here.
Why wait? There's no clinks up for another 50 seconds. I mean, that's all your net worth right now in Execration. Just down the toilet. They'll try to push them away outside of the base, but that's about all they can do right now, as it seems like T1 might just settle for Megas. Bob, we'll see what he can get done here on this Batrider. Very hard without the follow-up damages. Carl, he's just going to roll right through onto Shanks. Solarvine will be there to follow up with the Nature's Grasp, and Carl, he'll just keep rolling right through him. The Illuminate will get the job done. He'll just hold everyone else back. Shanks will buy back, but again, you are still without the clinks. Bob, he blinked in, but he doesn't find the target. They'll leave without Megas, though. Clinks is up in 5 seconds.
You've got Roche up here for T1 if they want to fall back to that. They've got control of the triangle. Execration, they're in a dicey spot. They can't really venture outside of their base. They have one piece of forward vision, but it's not nearby Roche. So they're not going to be able to contest that properly. They might walk up the high ground.
Oh, Tino, that is a very aggressive walk up. I'm not sure about that one. Overgrowth's going to lock everyone down again. Whitemon with the perfect initiation. They'll take down the Dream Protector, but that's about all they're getting right now, as Palace has been targeted. Gabby just wanting the clinks. In fact, never mind that. They'll go after Tino or Carl. He'll chase Palace down by himself, but can you lock him down long enough? He mistimes the blink. So Palace might actually have a chance. Or maybe not. As the swashbuckle does land, Carl's still going, but now the Fiend Drip gonna hold him down. They're trying their absolute best. Palos, though's gonna die to Zephyr. Without buyback once again. And Gabby, he'll just focus on the top racks. He's not interested in the team fight right now. He could not care less about what's happening across the map. He'll just go for Megas. As everyone on T1 just laughs at themselves, and well, that'll be Mega Creeps on the way. In fact, that might just be game, John. Without buybacks, how are you going to defend T4 towers?
Yeah, it feels really tough. And we still have single target control. Gabby's just going for Chase. Oh. Yeah, he's just going for tier 4s instead. Doesn't have the most time left on... Well, that's still halfway through. And should be able to clean up, force the buyback. I don't see any angles for Execration, Mike. Maybe a Fountain pullback with Lasso or Swamp.
We go Bob, trying his best to buy a bit of time. Tips are already out. They know they've got Bob here, or maybe Tino does save the day. Still Zephyr just chasing him down on his own with the Solar Bind and the Illuminate. Zephyr, he's gonna take him down. I mean, why the hell not? Keeper of the Light just getting it all done, as now he finds Shanks. He gets another. Fountain timing time it is. They want the GG call and they're gonna get it. Palos has seen enough. Game 2 to go the way of Team 1. I know you told me, John. Do we still have a question mark over the Clinks hero?
No, not in my eyes, Mike. I feel like Clinks just has to play a lot faster, and that's why we were looking for stuff like a Gleipnir, maybe an Orchid build-up. You want to be active. Because, sure, Terrorblade with Metamorphosis feels really strong. You know, it is really big, but its timer is a lot more constrained compared to Clinks in the early to mid-game. And that's where Clinks shines. You get an Orchid, you start eating some big creeps, you be really tanky, you run people down. We saw a really strong start from Execration once more from Bob. Bob plays mid amazingly well. He had a really strong start, very fast travel timing, but they shift focus. They start being aggressive on bot lane instead of harassing Gabby on his lane, and we saw the net for it again. Not a big advantage for Execration despite all those kills. So Gabby was still farming, everyone in T1 was still farming and keeping up. And it goes back to the Clinks a bit, but the off-lane Kunkka also didn't feel great from Tino.
No, you're not!
I mean, no, but let's be fair. Like, what did the Kunkka do for the first 15 minutes, Mike? Nothing. Like, I get that the win condition wasn't amazing as well, but there needs to be someone that follows through from Bob. And I think that has to be Tino, because Pilas is going to farm, and the Kunkka had nothing to play with. So maybe a bit of a change in what they want to play with here from Execration, T1. Can't take it away from them, Mike. They look really good this time.
I have nothing to say to you, johnxfire. We're going to head to a short break, and right after that break, we'll be back with our panel to discuss what happened in this series. We'll see you then.
Well, at the start of this series, Sheep, you asked if T1 were going to be able to keep the 2-0 fashion, and they were. They're looking on top. They're looking more stable, and they're looking like the T1s that we're used to seeing. But one of the heroes in that game number 2, we all had a bit of a question mark about was the Clinks. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on the Clinks now after seeing it played on Execration.
It's one of those heroes that it didn't feel like an eyesore. Like, it didn't do anything terribly wrong. It kind of kept up with TB, got slightly outfarmed. I think he ended the game like 5-2 with 4 assists. It just didn't feel like it could have this big impact on the game, couldn't carry the game, which you're not asking a Clinks to do when you pick it, but ultimately they needed to maybe snowball more in the early to mid game, which, similar to game 1, T1 comes out of the lane slightly ahead, but they just couldn't fully, win the game from there.
For T1, they weren't coming out of the lanes dominating or like fully ahead, but Execration never were able to do anything in this mid to late game, and I want to know what T1 were doing to be able to ensure that Execration never had the ability to really take a team fight.
I do think it's really hard for them to take team fight just because of, like, Bob crushed it, right? Early, he was making really good rotations, his score was really good, but when you look at the net worth graph, he's kind of like middling. He's just not keeping up. It's hard for him to because he wants to just go and kill things and not take a load of space away from Clinks. And it's like, things like Venge, having Venge on your team, she was trying to swap people out to safety, but here, like, when your Pango enemy core is able to just, like, roll and kind of follow the swap, it wasn't really matter. Like, he was always able to keep catching up with the people that they were trying to pull away to safety. It just felt like the Venge was kind of, like, really hard this game to play as a support. Like, she even stacked up the Ancient really hard, and then T1 just came and stole it!
Felt like T1's approach was like 2 games in a row they're first picking Puddle and don't care too much about Bob's lane, Bob's lane against Carl mid, because Carl just kind of once again falls back to the jungle. Like, he lost his lane probably not as badly as game 1, but again he has this call, and Pango takes a lot of advantage of that, can just flat from the jungle, and it just felt Carl made up for the lane disadvantage by having a farming advantage.
One of the heroes I'm also interested in is the Necro. We saw it in both games this series. Do you think it is coming into the meta? Do you think other teams are going to pick it up now after seeing it?
There's a high chance. And just like how we saw DP like surge last patch, I could see a Necro.
Yeah.
I mean, this game I think he was exploited really badly. His net worth was pretty poor. Bob obviously like was picked his Batrider in response to the Necro and kind of like dumpstered him pretty hard. But that's like expected of the matchup, and he itemized around it. He got decent items, and he provided like what his hero was meant to do.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be team specific, and for T1 and Cuckoo with the way his playstyle is, and he plays some of these slightly greedier offlaners, I think it's gonna suit them very well. So I would expect more Necro from T1, but I don't think we're gonna see like maybe like Boom and FBZ suddenly busting out a bunch of Necros.
That's a good point.
It's gonna be player specific.
I'm interested to see where it does end up developing. The other part is Execration. Last time you had massive issues with the itemizations and what they were picking. Was that prevalent in game number 2?
I like what John and Mike were talking about with Clinks' build. I think it was a little bit too greedy. And they were hoping for like Orchid and stuff, and instead he had like Dragonlance crit, Scotty, Maelstrom, BKB, nothing that really like helped him kind of interact with the game. I don't know, I didn't hate it too much, but like it did seem to be an issue. He wasn't kind of killing people that well.
Okay, interesting. For you guys, was there a standout player on T1? This whole series, not just this game.
Oh, that's a big question.
It's a big one.
It's a massive question.
T1 looked really good. It's not the T1 we saw the first series of the DPC.
Part of me is maybe Gabby or the supports, I would say. I think the supports did a good job of just, helping recover from a slow start. But I think Gabby 2 games in a row, just really solid carry job. T1 were on the back foot from the lanes, and he just delivered these solid late game performances.
Yeah, that's true. And like I said at the start of this series that Gabby's looked so good on these like fast tempo carries, and like I would like to see that trend continue. But here we are. He's pulling out a really great Terrorblade, farming it up. Like they even like played him aggressively, like taking the stacks. That is like a really hard like high execution move, because if you can easily get punished when you're in the enemy's jungle. He's there for it. He's with his team. They're clearly like communicating well, executing their moves well, looking good. Gabby's looking fantastic, honestly, right now.
He's settling into the team very well, but unfortunately he's not the person that we have for the winners interview. We do have Whitemon joining us, which is just as exciting, I would say. Whitemon, hello. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to know, how was the confidence for you coming into this series? Did you think it was going to be 2-0?
Uh, I don't I don't really think about easy game, but we just gonna play our game. I think we don't really care about the result. Yeah.
And the drafting as well, you guys looked really strong with that. Have you been working on it compared to your last few series?
Yeah, we keep scream a lot.
I see March in the background behind you. He's joined you at the boot camp. What's it like having him there? How has that changed things for your team?
Uh, um,
He's useless. He doesn't do anything. Got it. All right. Don't worry. You don't have to say it, Whiteboard.
We understood. We read between the lines. Chip, do you have anything you want to ask?
Oh god, I don't know. I'm kind of tickled.
I don't know what to say.
No, you're good. You're good.
You guys have been like super prioritizing Necrophos, especially this series. How do you, like? Do you guys rate it like really highly? Do you think he's like one of the best offlaners right now, or is it something that you guys are just experimenting with?
I think for the Necro, we just like doing on screen a lot. Yeah, I think just that. I think.
I also want to ask you a question just to sort of settle a bit of a debate, but can you share your thoughts on anti-mage with us?
Anti-mage,
Yeah.
I think anti-mage is not a hero anymore because right now you want to play fast, right? And anti-mage need more items. Yeah.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much, Whitemon, for joining us. Congrats on the win, and enjoy the celebration with the boys.
Yeah, thank you.
Zoomed right into his face.
It was beautiful. I love it.
I love how you asked the March question. He's like, I don't want to say it out loud. What if he hears me, man? Like my coach, he's literally in the room with me.
But more importantly, anti-mage trash. See, stop picking it. Get it out.
Yeah, Mike's gonna be maybe a little bit biased towards T1 for the rest of the DPC season after hearing that one. It's nice to know Whitemon's on his side for sure. For Division 1 standings, nothing really shaking up too much there, you know. We expect T1 to be up there. They're looking good with only one series lost out of the 4 that they've played, and now Execration are going 0-4. That's a really rough spot either way. I'm going to do the quick maths in my head, and I'm going to say there's probably no way they're going to be making it to the major.
I thought you were about to doom them to already being bottom 2. I was like, that's a bit harsh, but maybe accurate.
I'm not that doom and
Harsh,
gloom.
but fair.
Yeah. I would probably agree with that. I mean, top 3 is major. They could, you know, winning out 3-7, still losing record. I don't think a losing record is ever going to get you top 3. So
Definitely not.
facts.
Anyone else in there, though, for you that interests?
No surprises. I mean, I think the teams we expected to come in and do well are getting the results. Like, you see Fnatic undefeated, Boom with a great score, T1, SMG's done pretty well at the same time. It's more the form that some of these teams are in. It started a bit slow, like Fnatic and T1 especially, I think, looked a bit rough in week 1 and 2. Fnatic still only played 2 series, but the improvement has been noticeable. Like, T1 crushed today. Their last series, they crushed it for the most part, I think. Even though maybe that game 2 against SMG wasn't, you know, as convincing. But the fact is they're getting 2-0s now, and they're playing way better Dota. I think they're adjusting to the patch. So, you know, the teams that you expect doing well, they're performing.
So true. Good for T1. Like, they're looking great again. And we love to root for T1. Like, who doesn't love rooting for T1? It's like when they're doing well, everyone's kind of sad about it. Like, we expect them to be top of C along with Boom and stuff. So they're getting back there, back in form. Big fan.
After today's list, though, is there a silver lining for Execration?
No. That's
okay.
the end of the show.
Whoa. I was expecting more, but just no.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I don't think there is necessarily. Like, they played 2 good early games. Bob had good lanes, but that's also the nature of how they came into the series. They picked him a hero that had a lane advantage both games. So naturally, like, if he's not winning his lane, that's a big issue. I think ultimately for Execration, yeah, they're going to look forward and try and fix their problems, but they definitely didn't maybe show anything to get too excited about today.
Well, I'm also looking forward to Saturday's games and Saturday's schedule up there on the screen, especially the SMG Neon one. For me personally, I just really enjoy watching SMG play, though. I like their drafts as well. It's always a good conversation starter.
I just go back because I feel
Okay,
mean. Like
sorry.
I do agree with Parker. Like I thought Bob was really good today. I like really enjoy watching him. So
You wanted to go back just to compliment
I just
Bob?
wanted to go back and compliment Bob. No, like you're saying, is there so long? Like yeah, they have Bob, and he's actually kind of like banging. Like he beats a lot of high like tier mids in C, and I think like it's always great watching his lane and seeing how it goes. We really enjoyed like seeing a lot of the like micro level mid stuff when our nice observer Eosin was focusing on the mid lane. Anyway, yes, can't wait for the rest of the games this week, guys.
You're trying to be nice to Eosin after you roast him every break we get.
He missed first blood in the first series today, guys. Just wanted you to know that
Yeah.
if you missed it, which he also missed. So
We all missed
We all
it.
missed
yeah,
it because of him.
but yeah, thanks Eosin.
That's all right. He'll work on it. But that is going to be it for all of the Dota games today from us. We will see you guys Saturday. But until then, enjoy your time.